Thank you for the real-time images that you're showing of what all appear to be peaceful assemblies, which is what we want. We want calm, we want peace, we want people to assemble peacefully, lawfully, safely, and we want the law to be followed. And yes, that includes the President of the United States, who here has overstepped his authority. He's trying to exercise authority he does not have. He has invoked a statute which can only be used to call in the National Guard if there's an invasion, which there is not, if there's a rebellion, which is nowhere to be seen, or if the regular forces of the federal government cannot are insufficient to execute the laws of the United States, which is not present here either. The law also requires that the calling and deployment of the National Guard be issued through the governor, meaning that we need the consent of the governor of the state of California, Governor Newsom here, and he not only does not consent, he strenuously objects to the deployment of the National Guard. So everything you said is right about the National Guard being deployed. It's unnecessary. It pulls the National Guardsmen and women away from doing critical being engaged in critical services like tackling fentanyl flow into California at the San Diego border, or from tackling wildfires as we are in wildfire season in the summer months here in California. So what the Trump administration has done here is unnecessary. It's not constructive. It's harmful. It has only led to inflame tensions and provoke, as opposed to calm and create peace. And most importantly, it's unlawful, which is why we brought the Trump administration to court for the 24th time in 20 weeks today for violating the law. He is a repeat offender when it comes to breaking the law, violating the Constitution, and we will be resolute, immovable, and unapologetic in our commitment to ensure that the President of the United States of America only does unlawful things and is not allowed to break the law or violate the Constitution.
He has been advertising that this was his plan and his intent for quite some time. I want you to take a listen to Donald Trump talking. This is back in March of 2023 in Davenport, Iowa. Take a listen.
You look at any Democrat-run state, and it's just not the same. It doesn't work. You look at these cities, our great cities are, New York City is a crime den. Chicago is a crime den. You look at these great cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, you look at what's happening to our country. We cannot let it happen any longer. And one of the other things I'll do, because, you know, you're supposed to not be involved in that. You just have to be asked by the governor or the mayor to come in. The next time, I'm not waiting.
So, Secretary, I try to be judicious in the sound that I play of Donald Trump, but I think that is particularly important because that is 2 years ago, him telling us exactly what he intended to do and what we are seeing play out in Los Angeles today. Two questions for you. One, why the fixation with blue cities and blue states? And two, does it become legally germane that he already was setting a predicate for this before there was, in fact, the invasion or rebellion that he is using, does not exist, but he is using to legitimize the use of this statute?
Yeah, you know, I think his prior comments are really important, including his comment in 2020 that said he can't call the National Guard unless the governors ask him to. So in 2020, someone had informed him of the appropriate use of the law and the way it works. His sort of premeditation that has been so transparent in that clip that you show, his desire to blow through the law, violate it, and invoke and call the National Guard through an unlawful authority is also important. And, you know, he's also revealed he's got a very difficult and complicated relationship with both the facts and the law. He has acknowledged he is not an attorney, which is so clear with all these lawsuits in which we're bringing and we're winning, where he's breaking the law. You know, his overgeneralized exaggerations that he makes about, you know, cities and states. You know, half of the states in the United States, especially California, are just completely inaccurate. We are the largest state in the nation, the most diverse, the fourth largest economy in the world, the home of dreamers and innovators and doers. He is fixated on blue states. He is fixated on blue jurisdictions. His ego cannot accept the fact that he was absolutely thrashed in California in the presidential election and in the prior presidential election that he ran in Trump 1.0. And so he wants to have political vindication through his official role, which is completely inappropriate and often manifests itself in unlawful actions, as is the action of trying to bring the National Guard in when there's no authority to do so. So he wages the culture wars. He seeks political vindication. He is not a president for all Americans. He tries to attack blue states and blue jurisdictions. California and LA is just the latest example.
So, General Bonta, I really appreciate your response to Alicia, and I think I want to rewrap that a little bit and look at the other side of the paper in the sense that you started the conversation noting that the people that we see on the screen, the live shot, are people as before, who are assembling peaceably and lawfully. They want to bring or have the government address their grievance, right? So this part of the conversation for me is important because the next piece, the other side of it, are the people themselves. They're assembled. Donald Trump wants the escalation. The provocation is bringing in the military, sending in the military, nationalizing, federalizing the National Guard, so that it provokes a response, as we noted coming in, right, to this conversation, that it's used against the very people who are there, that are used against the law-abiding citizens and the legal structure that you oversee is used against them to justify bringing the military and other forces to bear. How are the officials of Los Angeles talking to the people to help them understand, protest, but don't provoke back? Because that's what they want. They want to justify their initial action by saying, see, look, they're burning cars and they're blowing up buildings and they're doing all this bad stuff. That's why we sent the Guard in. That's why we want the Marines there. Donald Trump, in the clip we just played, made that very clear. I'm not waiting until that happens. But when it happens, I will be justified in taking the steps I've taken.
The message from California leaders has been loud, it's been clear, it's been consistent to peacefully, lawfully, and safely exercise your time-honored constitutional fundamental right to assemble, to speak out and to speak up, but do not break the law. Do not be unsafe. Do not be violent. Be peaceful. The governor has said that. I have said that. Law enforcement on the ground has said that. Local leaders on the ground have said that. That's the appropriate message. It's unfortunate that the president of the United States is seemingly intentionally and deliberately provoking the situation.
Take us into this moment. Can you just rewind the tape a little bit and reset me on what has happened there over the weekend?
Yeah, of course, Nicole. And your introduction was really wonderful because I think what it sets up so perfectly is how unusual and how unprecedented the size and the scale and the scope of the immigration enforcement operations that took place in Los Angeles, starting with right here at this Home Depot in Cypress Park at 7 o'clock, 7:15, 7:30 on Friday morning, were and why they led to those protests. The big picture is Los Angeles is a so-called majority minority city and a majority minority state. There are more people of color that live in Los Angeles than white people at this point, and many of those people are undocumented. By some counts, 10% of the population of LA County, one of the largest counties, the largest county by population in the United States, is undocumented, maybe as many as 1 million people. Those people are our neighbors, our coworkers, our classmates, our friends, our parishioners, fellow parishioners in churches. They are part of the fabric of the city of Los Angeles. And not in the last many decades under Democratic nor Republican presidents, despite the fact that you had presidents with big deportation programs, Democratic and Republican, as you have so often reported, have we seen the type of immigration enforcement we saw play out on the streets of Los Angeles on Friday. And that struck fear into the heart of not just the undocumented community here, but of many U.S. citizen family members of undocumented people and many U.S. citizens who know those people, because that is removing people from this community who have been here, if not their entire life, virtually their entire lives. There are so many mixed status families that live in Los Angeles that might have an undocumented parent or relative and U.S. citizen child or cousin who, we've talked about this before. The family separation policy of the first Trump administration in 2018 was a deliberate ripping apart of parents and children at the border to separate those families and inflict pain on those families. But when I say mass deportation is family separation, when I say those signs that were held up on the floor of the Republican convention, as I talked to you from the floor of that convention, was a sign of what was to come and why that is also a form of family separation. It is family separation in the interior. It's taking parents away from their children, not at the border and not in detention centers, but at a Home Depot on a street corner, or outside of a school, or at a workplace in the fashion district where they might be working in a factory. It's a different form of family separation, and it's exactly the intent of this administration, modeled after, Nicole, Dwight D. Eisenhower's 1954 operation with a name so racist, I'm not going to say it here to you right now, but there resulted in 1 million Mexicans and some Mexican Americans being sent to Mexico in the wake of the Bracero program, coming here legally in the 1950s. That's what the Trump administration is modeling this program after. That's their stated goal. They've talked about it. And so now we're seeing it effectuated on the streets of the largest county in America, second largest city in America, with the largest undocumented population in America, where those people interact. I say those people, we all interact on a daily basis here. And it has terrified so many people, which is why you saw people before the protests turned violent, and there was certainly violence associated with those protests. Before the protests turned violent, a largely peaceful protest, to actually that converged in front of the Metropolitan Detention Center, where so many of those people were picked up by ICE at locations like this, in order to say this is not acceptable for the people of Los Angeles.
Bad for Trump. He didn't expect this. I've been saying this, I'm not the only one saying this, right? To be clear, right? But like others have been noting as well that this isn't what he thought was going to happen. He thought, again, this whole term would be clean, clear sailing, no resistance, that you would have given up, that you were going to, go to sleep for 4 years and, keep your head in the sand and tune out. And people did for a few days after the election. Things were quieter than the first Trump election where the protests started immediately. They didn't start immediately this time. But if anything, they're louder, faster than they were the 4 years ago, right? It didn't start in November, December, but the protests are heavier now than they were that first summer. At least that's what it feels like to me. And I think he felt like all the institutions would go his way. Democrats in office would bend over completely for him. That hasn't happened. They're not always as strong as they need to be, but they haven't fully bent the knee to Trump. And critically, the courts haven't either. Yes, they've indulged Trump in certain cases that I disagree with them, but you've seen judges, not just democratically appointed judges, but Republican appointed judges, and specifically in some cases, Trump-appointed judges take a stand against him, either totally denying that Trump can do something that he wants to do or has already done, or, for example, saying, you have some power here, you are president, but you don't have near the power you think you do, especially if you want to go above the heads of duly elected officials in the Senate, in the House, and at the state and local level. And so this is yet another example, this lawsuit and this pushback from the media and everything, that this fascistic fantasy that Trump and his team have, it's not working out like they planned.